Hello and welcome to the latest Monday morning edition of the DTF Podcast, the Doster, T.O. and Fanta Podcast. It's Monday, January 23rd, 10:07 in the a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the only legitimate time zone. Fanta, T.O., how we doing, gentlemen? How's it going? How's life? How's everything? How was your weekends?
It's great. Really good weekend. Fun to watch everything on Saturday, guys. It was an elite sports TV viewing window. I was out in Providence for FS1. Called their win over DePaul, and then hit the sports bar in Providence, a sports bar named Snookers. It's a well-known sports bar and pool hall right in Providence. So it was camped out there, watching all the games, checking everything out. I love the dynamic of Alabama, Missouri, as well as Texas, West Virginia happening at the same time. I was literally going from screen to screen, just checking things out. And it was a really fun college basketball weekend. So much is happening in this sport right now, fellas. There's no shortage of storylines.
Yeah, it's been awesome. The entire weekend was awesome, full of games, and not necessarily full of surprises, but like a lot of interesting things are just continuing to pop up. And I feel like we need to change the vernacular of saying, "Oh, there's no good teams." There needs to be a lot of good teams. Because like TCU's popping up, they're beating the brakes off of Kansas. Kansas is beating the brakes off of somebody else, and then they go up, lose to Mizzou, and then Alabama goes up to Mizzou and beats them by 20. I'm just like, my head's spinning. What's going on? But like, it's been a great college basketball season as far as parity is concerned, and a lot of fun to watch. Saturday, I enjoyed the heck out of Saturday because I was able to sit and watch games, and my wife was happy with me sitting and watching games. I wasn't put to the task all that much. So it was a great weekend, a lot of fun. And Church League got the W again, just to keep the world updated on Church League.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what we're clamoring for. That's why we have you on here. It's not nothing to. We don't want you breaking down games. You don't want you talking about why this team looks great, why TCU is going into the fog and winning by 23. It's so we can hear your updates about your literal 70-point wins in Church League. They won 91 to 26. Is that what it was?
Oh my God.
That's what we're talking about here. 91 to 26.
We finished on a 61 to 6 run. It was 30 to, what was it? 30 to 20.
Were you running it up?
Huh?
Isn't it very ironic that in Church League you're running up the score?
God don't play suckers. Like you gotta go at it. I'm just joking. The funny thing about that is there's a guy he's deep in the church that I was playing with, and he told me to stop shooting with about 6 minutes left, which is fine. So I quit shooting, and then I turn around, my man is snowbirding, like trying to get points. I was like, dude,
I thought we quit shooting. Then what were you doing?
I was passing. I reluctantly, I might add. No, it's fun, man. Dude, it's fun. I know, like, we watch a lot of hoop. It's fun to play hoop. That's why we all, Fanta, speaking of which, I heard that you were working a Big East game one time and then had to 3-on-3 it at halftime of a Seton Hall game and then put your suit back on.
Yeah, once upon a time, I won a 3-on-3 title when I was an undergrad at Seton Hall. Won a 3-on-3 championship. Just with pick and pop basketball, pick and roll. I was the high screener. We were actually playing X's and O's basketball, even though it was 3-on-3. And I surrounded myself with 2 guards who knew what to do with it. And I was just smart off the ball, and I would catch and shoot here and there, make a shot, keep the defense honest. And we won a 3-on-3 intramural title once upon a time. There's footage. It's not very good footage. It's iPhone 7 footage, but there's some footage lying around.
Really? I'm going to have to find Dagan Hughes and get that. Does Dagan have it?
He could track that down. Yes, he could.
The world needs this.
Yeah, we're gonna have to break it down, get it up on Synergy. We got to see what Fanta's points per possession is. How good of a screener do you think he was? Like I just imagine Fanta having elite footwork when it comes.
You got to remember he was a left guard in high school.
Yeah.
So footwork's there.
But here's the thing: they're not calling it a legal screen in intramural basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So just by screening, you throw the defense off. But I got to tell you, I badly want like a King of the Hill 1v1 Field of 68 Personalities tournament at the Final Four, because I just think it'd be fascinating. I think we would have a Cinderella emerge. Somebody out of nowhere that you're just like, how is this guy winning? But got to play some bully ball. I'm all for that. I really I really do want to play Goodman one-on-one just so I could beat him and then have that forever.
Yeah, I've seen him move. I've seen him throw a football at Kansas State last week. I saw him shoot. Fanta, there is no doubt in my mind that you would beat Goodman if you guys played 2-11. But here's the problem. This is what's going to happen if you play Goodman, right? As soon as he gets a lead, even if it's the first shot of the game, it's over. It's done. He's going to say that it's over. He's going to say that he won, and then he's never going to let you hear about it until the day that he dies. That's all. That he's going to over and over.
Well,
all you're going to hear about is, you remember that time I beat you one-on-one? Anytime that you tweet anything, you remember that time I beat you one-on-one? Anytime that you're on After Dark with him, hey, you remember that time I beat you one-on-one? That is what's going to happen.
Well,
you don't want to play
he did go to Arizona, so he certainly wouldn't be the first one to stop the count.
He tries to claim that he can still dunk.
Dunk what? Dunk a donut into that Dunkin' Donuts smoothie coffee that he drinks every morning?
That's what he tries to claim. That's what he tries to claim, that he can still dunk. So that's what we're working with here when it comes to Goodman. That's what we're working with here.
Yeah. Again, he did go to Arizona, so he wouldn't be the first one to stop the count. Having said this, how was your trip to the Midwest with him?
Oh, Fanta. It was long. He is
long. It was long.
It was long. He is the least safe driver that I've ever seen in my entire life. Literally the entire time he just got his phone out, scrolling, like not even just texting people, just like, looking through his phone, reading DMs, reading tweets, firing off texts. Did you see that Big Game Boomer, like best college basketball personalities list that came out?
Yeah, Goodman was number one.
Well, do you want to know why? During our drive from Manhattan to Columbia, he was just messaging with Big Game Boomer, giving him advice and giving him tips on what the top 100 should look like, and then lost his mind when it came out and he didn't get final say on what the top 100 was. And since then, over the course of the last 4 days, he's been texting me nonstop like, hey, we should do our own list of top 100 college basketball personalities.
He hit me up. He hit me too.
We should put a list together of that. We should do our own. I'm like, no.
Did he ask you? No. Yeah, he asked me, Tio.
Yeah.
Rank your top 10. It's really hard.
It is hard.
It was hard.
Yeah. Do you have your top 10 just out of curiosity?
Yeah, I gave him one.
I did too.
I gave him one. Yeah, it is hard though. Rob made it.
Made it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I thought now, Rob, you didn't make mine because I thought he was referring just to television. Yeah. I said if it's not just television,
hey, you can watch YouTube on TV, sir.
That's true, but you know what I mean. I'm thinking network.
You know what, Tio? You didn't make my top 10 either. How about that?
I didn't think I would. I would. I thought we were talking about television. What's your top 10? Do you have a top 10, Rob?
I did not make one. I have no interest in doing that. I have no interest in arguing with people. I've not like that. Just that's going to open up a can of worms, or all you're going to do is hurt feelings. And there's one thing that Goodman loves to do, and that is to hurt people's feelings and find ways to take shots at the Seth Greenbergs of the world.
All right. Why don't we talk basketball?
Yeah, you don't have to give your top 10, Fanta. Let's get into the basketball for the weekend. So Kentucky might be back. I love how T.O. said that not a lot happened this weekend, but it's the first time ever that we saw the top two teams in the AP poll lose at home in the same 2-day stretch. We got to talk about who the new number one is, and we had a Pac-12 showdown. But before we do all of that, I think the most interesting story coming out of this weekend happened on Sunday. Indiana, despite playing without Xavier Johnson, despite having a limited Race Thompson, has now won 3 in a row. They beat Wisconsin. They beat Illinois. On Sunday, they beat Michigan State by 13. Trace Jackson Davis, over the course of the last 6 games in 2023, is averaging 24.5 points, 13.3 boards, 4.7 assists, and 3.7 blocks. All of a sudden, Indiana is back, top 10 in KenPom. And in those 6 games, in that 6-game stretch, they lost their first 3, gave up 260 points in those 3 losses. Their last 3 games, they gave up 179 points in the 3 wins. T.O., you guys talked about this on After Dark last night. Is Indiana back?
I don't know the word back. Did they ever really leave? That I know they had some issues and everything like that as far as point guard play was a question, all that. But if Trace Jackson Davis is as good as what he's been over the last few days, I know you have that 6-game stat lineup, Rob. Like, he was incredibly dominant, like in so many different ways. And guys, he's got to have the strongest hands. I said in the Big Ten last night, and I started to think about it. I'm not sure there's a guy in the country with stronger hands. Maybe Sheboy, maybe, but Sheboy doesn't have soft hands to where he catches stuff naturally. Trace Jackson Davis, like, he grabs rebounds just out of people's hands because he feels like it. Like, there was a rebound yesterday. Joey Hauser's going up for a rebound. Trace just like, nope, that's mine. I'll take that one. And then just goes back up with an offensive rebound. And to be honest with you, he might be the best lob catcher in the past 15, 20 years. And that's a lot of people included. And the reason I'm saying that is because of the angles from where he catches these lobs. Like, he'll be running at the goal. He'll be running at the rim. They will throw it over his head. He will still find a way in transition to catch the ball and dunk it while catching it here and then turning around and dunking it there. It's one of the most remarkable abilities I've seen from somebody like that. And it's consistent. He's got the softest hands, the strongest hands, and like, his ability to finish those possessions is remarkable. And you can't stop him right now. He's boarding everything. He's scoring everying. They
and
say don't let him go left.
What he's going to do. You know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to his left hand, and you can't stop him.
You know what the crazy part is? The crazy part about that is sometimes you're so worried about a guy doing a certain thing that, like, you overplay that so much that it becomes an advantage to use that hand. Does that make sense? Like, somebody leads you left, but like, you want to go right, but they open up completely. And if you attack that top foot, you can forget it. Like, you're going right. It's the same kind of principle. Like, it's almost baffling that he's still able to get to that left hand.
Well, I have a couple of thoughts on this.
Oh boy.
Number one.
I'm buckling up.
Oscar Sheboy, 22-18. Drew Timme, 22-13. Dane Danger, 20-7. Zach Edey told me in a post-game interview last Monday, I could have scored 40 today. And we know what he did against Michigan State. So, I believe that you're right, Rob. Indiana is bad. However, they beat a team that is the biggest mystery in college basketball in Illinois. I don't know what we're getting from day to day from them. And they beat a Michigan State team that, frankly, has allowed opposing bigs to dominate them all season long. Michigan State has been bad. And Tom Izzo would tell you they've been bad. They've been bad against opposing centers. We knew that this would be their weakness, and it has been their weakness. To me, though, Indiana being back hinges on two things that are not Trace Jackson Davis. Number one, they're defending. Their defense was horrible earlier in conference play. Last year, they finished the season as the top KenPom team out of the Big Ten in defense, in defensive efficiency. The other thing is, you look at what they did against Michigan State, but you look at what they did against Illinois, what they've done recently. With Xavier Johnson out, Trey Galloway has to be better. He has to deliver something for them, even if it's not scoring. But on Sunday, he goes for 17 points. A perfect 3 for 3 from three. Indiana's one of those teams in college basketball, when they hit a three and they're guarding, it feels like 5 or 6. That's what a 3 feels like when you're playing them. And the other one is Tamar Bates.
Yep.
Tamar Bates was listed all throughout October as breakout candidate. He's going to come on. He's going to be an X factor. There are games where Tamar Bates is pretty quiet. On Sunday, he was loud. And Indiana needs Tamar Bates to continue to play a role for this team. He has to be the sixth man for Indiana. They don't have a big bench. They don't have this huge rotation. It's been cut down because of injuries. But for Indiana, if you're going to lose Race Thompson, And you're going to lose Xavier Johnson. You've got to have some perimeter play. And on Sunday, Galloway and Bates supplied it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Having guys that can make shots when you have Trace Jackson Davis in the middle, it opens up space. Like we all know that. I got a stat for you though, because to me it's the defense, right? The defense changed everything. Like I said, they gave up 260 points in those 3 losses that they had. They've given up 179 points in this 3-game winning streak. They're averaging under 60 points allowed. And here's the biggest stat. So on BartTorvik.com, pull out your Torvik, right?
Pull out your Torvik.
Pull out your Torvik. You can look at efficiency stats, break down by like certain date ranges. And during this 3-game winning streak, their defensive efficiency rating is 87.4. You extrapolate that out across the entire season, that's 6th nationally. That changes everything. Everything when you can actually get stops. Because they're never going to be a great offensive team, but you can be a good enough offensive team if you are good defensively and you have Trace Jackson Davis. Like you can find a way to win a lot of basketball games in the Big Ten. So that's just kind of, and you know what? Now
is this a case where numbers are deceiving? Because Indiana is, according to Kim Palm's, number 20 offense in the country. Is this a case where numbers are deceiving?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with beating up on some lesser teams, and it's also the games where they gave up 260 points, like they were in those games, so they were getting out and they were running, they were scoring some points. And like Fana said, they got guys that are making shots a little bit now. It's not just Miller Kopp out there trying to space the floor. And like we gotta give him a shout out. Jalen Hood-Schifino was not great on Sunday, but he was great for like the last 8 or 9 games heading into Sunday. So having him kind of step into the role vacated by Xavier Johnson. I mean, look, I'll tell you this. I'm kind of at the point where if Xavier Johnson can come back healthy by March, like all of a sudden you're looking at an Indiana team that can be really dangerous with a bunch of shooters, 2 combo guards, and Trace Jackson Davis. Like that's their guard. That's not a team you want to face. You know who else might be back, guys? Kentucky might be back. They might officially be back. They've also won 3 in a row. They won at Tennessee. Sorry, T.O. They beat Georgia by 14, and then they beat Texas A&M, who was 5-0 in the SEC coming into that game. The biggest thing here, Fanta, I'm going to you first on this one. Cal has cut the rotation. It seems like he's fully bought into this idea. They are basically playing 8 guys. There are 6 in the main rotation. Lance Ware kind of gets the minutes whenever Oscar Tshiebwe's in foul trouble or needs a quick spell on the bench. And Severe Wheeler, in the last 2 games combined that he's played, has averaged 9.5 minutes. So it seems like Cal has kind of figured it out. And I'm going to give you another stat. Their adjusted offensive efficiency on Torvik in that 3-game stretch is 114.6, and that would rank them in the top 15 nationally if you put that over the entire season. So, Fanta, is Kentucky back?
Not to the degree that I believe in Indiana, because I still have my doubts with Kentucky offensively, but the performance against Texas A&M was what I'd like to see more of here as things string along, because they had 4 in double figures. Antonio Reeves, to me, has emerged as the X factor for this ball club, because over the last 5 games, he's averaging around 15, 16 points per game. He's got 2 20-plus point performances. He hit 5 threes against A&M on Saturday. So, guys, we have been clamoring all season long for Kentucky to make some shots from the outside. And frankly, we've called them a poor shooting team, and rightfully so, right? I mean, that's what we've talked about. But for this team, they're another one now. They've unlocked something here. Reeves is delivering. He's stepping up here over the last couple of games. Over these last 2 weeks, he's been very, very good, much better. And, you know, I think sometimes for teams, when you're losing, you get to a point where the only guys you got are yourselves. And I feel this watching Kentucky the last couple of weeks. I felt it in the win at Tennessee. I thought they played with a chip on their shoulder for the first time. I really did. I thought Tshiebwe came out and punched and said, I'm tired of this. I'm actually tired of this. I'm tired of getting doubted. I'm tired of losing. Like, on the marathon of college basketball, everybody goes through a period, for the most part, where you're going to be doubted, or where somebody's going to be like, you know what, they're not what they're made out to be. You know who people are calling that for on this Monday morning. Not to the same degree. I think all three of us agree they'll be okay. But like, you know who's going through that as they wake up today? Kansas. They've lost a couple games in a row. Now they're at Baylor tonight. And you will all know if they lose to Baylor on Monday night, well, it's the Big 12. It's life in the Big 12.
Yeah.
For Kentucky, I agree with you. They found the lineup. Cal is riding it because, guys, could he really ride any other horse at this point? The answer to that question is no.
No. Who would you think would beat Indiana or would win Indiana or Kentucky at this point?
Indiana.
Yeah. I think I probably would lean Indiana here, but I think that would be that's one of those ones where you're looking at like a 1.5 spread, something like that.
Yeah.
That'd be a good game.
Close.
That'd be a fun game.
Yeah, it's close. I think they found a solution by proxy whenever Severe couldn't play against Tennessee. I think that's a big point, and he is really good at what he is. He's an energy guy. He's a change of pace guy. But if he's your constant pace, there's problems because, guys, he shoots good percentages and all that. But it's almost like the other opposing teams aren't scared of it. So whenever he's driving into everybody, and there's not any space. Now you have different guys running the point. CJ Frederick, you're having to facilitate offense. You're having to call more plays. And whenever you're bigger around the perimeter, you have that ability. And now on top of that, Toppin's been playing well over the past 3 games to give Sheeb more space. Antonio Reeves, he had 23 against Texas A&M. Like, this is a guy that has scoring capability. It's a matter of had they been in the right positions. And guys, there's a couple of weeks ago, I did like a miniature breakdown of Kentucky. Like, a lot of the stuff they run will work. It's just their angles have been bad. Their spacing has been bad. They don't get off the ball. Whenever they pass, they don't go away. They stand still a lot. A lot of those things are changing because they have one less guy that's hunting the ball down to make a play. And Severe is always looking to run back to the basketball. We talked about Remy Martin last year, how Bill Self always talked about. He always runs back to the ball, and that's a problem. Severe kind of has that same thing. But now that he's off the floor, you have a guy like CJ Frederick bringing it up. He's very willing to pass it and go spot up and go find a place elsewhere.
That's his natural inclination, right? Severe's natural inclination is go get the rock. CJ's natural inclination is stand in the corner and let it fly when he gets it.
That's right. So it helps him. It helps that offense out a lot because there's more space to operate. Sheeb has more space. And guys, they're shooting 36.8% from 3 on the season. And they're the number 1 offensive rebounding team in the country because of Sheeb. So, like, even when they're missing, they're getting another shot on almost 40% of them.
They never had to be a great you don't have to run great stuff if you're.
They just have to be marginally decent at a lot of things.
You have to be able to create good shots for the guys that can make shots. You have to be able to create situations where you have CJ Frederick, like we said, standing in the corner, catching and shooting, where you have Antonio Reeves coming off a curl where he doesn't all of a sudden come off that screen and he's looking at 3 guys in front of him. You have to have the option where he can put the ball on the floor and get to the rim or just take that little pull up off the screen. You have to be able to get Jacob Toppin in a situation where you have him ISO'd in the mid post, right? And he can make a move without seeing 3 guys in front of him. That's all you need. Because you're going to be able to get enough off the offensive glass with Sheway, and you're going to be able to make enough threes, and now they're able to space the floor. It's frustrating that it took a Severe Wheeler injury for like Cal to do what we've all been kind of asking him to do. And the other big thing is that we're seeing less of the 2 big lineups, right? Lance Ware is, if you just have him be the energy guy that comes in for 10 to 15 minutes to use his fouls, to spell Sheway, to make sure that you're not playing Sheway 39 minutes a night, he can do that.
But do you trust them? Do you trust them?
I am getting to the point where I trust them to be like a team that can win a game or 2 in the tournament. I don't think that they're ever going to be what we thought they were going to be coming into the season. Part of that is because some guys haven't developed quite the same way that we thought. Sometimes some of it is like there's lots of reasons why. But I still think that they are I would say probably the 3rd best team in the SEC right now. Is that fair? I mean, Alabama's the best. Tennessee's probably the 2nd best. And then I would put Kentucky there as that next best team.
Hard to argue.
With upside, like that, with upside if the pieces are actually working. So it's now the thing we criticized him for early on in the season, guys, was that he wasn't putting his guys in a position to succeed. And I think now he's kind of found a way to put his guys in a position where they can
all
kind of be their best selves.
Yeah. Tell you what, Saturday night, they get Kansas in Lexington.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue because we need to talk about Kansas. We need to talk about the top two teams losing. All right, I got some facts for you guys. You ready? Facts and stats and info.
Pull out your Torvik.
I'm pulling out this is more like pull out your Elias Sports Bureau, maybe something like that. Anyway,
too wordy to be funny.
Yeah, too wordy. So Kansas lost at home by 23 points to TCU. That was the biggest home loss ever for a top two team in the AP poll. It was the second biggest home loss ever for Bill Self at Kansas. It was TCU's first ever win in Allen Fieldhouse.
Crazy.
So, T.O., we'll go to you first on this one because you were the first one to mention Kansas. Does this say more about TCU or the Jayhawks? Because I'm kind of torn on that, if I'm being frank.
Guys, there was a lot of emotional expenditure when they went to Manhattan. And then not only that, like you can't really breathe because you got to play TCU a few days later. And if you're tired at all playing against Mike Miles and Damian Ball, you can forget it because Mike Miles is the fastest person in basketball shoes with the ball in his hands.
What did you say about him? Looks like
I said he had a rocket in his ass. Mike Miles got a rocket in his ass. He's the fastest dude. He's got, here, there, and gone. That's his 3 speeds. And he, it's amazing how fast that dude. He's the fastest guy with a basketball I've seen since Ty Lawson. Like, that is saying a lot. I know John Wall was fast. Ty Lawson was the fastest person I've ever seen in person. He was ridiculous. He was a one-man press break by himself. He was incredible. But
Ja Morant's up there too.
Yeah, but Ja was a little bit different because whenever he was pressed, his half-court speed was so much different. I'm talking like end to end. He's still very fast. I didn't see it as much at Murray State. Like his ability to,
because they had 3 guys in front of him at all times. Like Mike Miles gets the ball, it's 2 dribbles, and it's literally a layup for somebody.
That's what I'm saying. That's more of what I'm getting at. Not that John Morant isn't amazing. He's my.
I can't believe you're hating on John Morant again, T.O. Unbelievable.
No, but
you and Shannon Sharp.
Wow, Shannon. Oh yeah. How about that? That was embarrassing.
We don't need to slander Fanta's Fox colleagues.
Yeah, that was brutal.
I fully back Shannon Sharp.
No, you don't.
I fully back Shannon Sharp.
No, you don't.
Yo, don't come into my MFing house.
I'll tell you this much.
Talk about it, Club Shay.
I think Fanta is probably the one person on the field of 68 where he would not back down from Steven Adams. He would go right back. You see that 7-foot New Zealand monster coming at you. Yeah, Fanta's not backing down. I'm probably backing down. T.O.'s running the other direction. Fanta's right there. Like,
that's a wild accusation.
What's up? I played left guard in high school, sir.
So, very quickly, 45 seconds on this. So this happened Friday night. I remember reading something on this on Friday night, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. That's so random. Then, we're seeing that the broadcast was talking about this, and that this went full on viral. What?
I want to know if the fact that he is a broadcaster, if that's any other fan, if that's not a guy that's on TV,
oh, he's out. He's gone.
Banned for life. Life.
Yeah,
but it's not gonna.
Well,
have you ever seen? First of all, have you guys ever seen Shannon Sharp in person? I have. Have you guys seen him in person?
He is an enormous. He's built like a barrel with 0% body fat.
He is not a regular person.
Also, he's a big LeBron guy.
Oh, he was talking trash. That's where it all came from. He was talking trash to Dylan Brooks about LeBron. He's like, you can't stop that or something. Dylan Brooks has something to say back.
Well, you can't. You can't. LeBron James can't be stopped.
Yeah. No, he can't. But that all being said, Shannon, I'm a big fan of Shannon Sharp. Huge fan of Shannon Sharp. I think he's so creative and so funny. And just off the wall, I really enjoy him. Dude, don't do that. You're bigger than that. Yeah. Literally and figuratively. You're not as big as Steven Adams, but dude, you're awesome. Just you don't have to do that. What are you mad for?
He's so South Carolina, it hurts, man. He is not gonna. He's not the kind of guy that's gonna back down from somebody. He's
Oglesby. April headline: Oglesby Morant get into it in Memphis.
All right, here's a question for you. We're at the Final Four. T.O. sitting courtside. who is T.O. most likely to get a screaming match with? Who is security going to have to come hold him back from running on the court to go after?
Oh, man.
There's only one person I could ever envision that happening. I'm not going to share his name. Only one.
Yeah, as long as it's not. I'm not. I know who it is. I'm not going to say it. That's how big of a man I am right now. I'll tell you after the show. I'll tell you after the show. All right. Anyway, Kansas.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well,
I love people. Sorry, Fanta. Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. Rob asked the question, did we learn more about TCU or more about Kansas in this? Now, I'm going to hop back on the horse that I was riding in the preseason, and honestly, I got off the horse. I did, so you can't take a victory lap. I'm not doing that here on the show. But I will say this. TCU reminded us on Saturday why some people had them in the top 10 in the preseason. They have that on their best day. That it factor that you look for from a team, that's what the Horned Frogs possess. Beyond the elite guard play of Mike Miles, they're just so tough. It's a gang rebounding team. They don't have just one main guy who gets all the boards like a Sheboy with Kentucky or another big who dominates. They just get after it. I mean, in Saturday's win, they had, fellas, 7 guys that had at least 3 rebounds. Nobody had more than 8. They just get up in you defensively. They make you work for everything you're going to get. And if you turn the ball over, you're in trouble against them. And Kansas turned the ball over 17 times. T.O. and I were messaging each other a couple weeks ago, and I said, Terrence, when TCU gets downhill, oh my goodness gracious.
Yep.
They are scary levels of good. Well, you're right. Kansas coming off the emotional game at Kansas State was the best thing that could have happened for Texas Christian University. Right. Jamie Dixon's team defends you. And for TCU, the question is always this, because TCU did lose to West Virginia earlier in the week. This is the other side of TCU. TCU's good enough to be in a regional final. They're that good. They could be in the Elite Eight, and I don't think it would surprise the 3 of us. It really wouldn't. They're also bad enough to get picked off in the round of 32. And the reason why I say that is, yet again, they're a team that offensively, if they're stuck in the half court, can be flat out ugly. I mean, against West Virginia, they hit 2 threes in the game. They couldn't find anything. Now, of course, against Kansas, and then I'll toss it back to you, Rob, they get Shahada Wells to have a career performance pretty much out of nowhere, where a guy averaging 5 points per game on this day goes for 17 and knocks down 3 triples. That's the kind of team they are. They need someone to emerge alongside Miles, whether it be Emmanuel Miller or Damian Baugh. It can't just be the Miles show. At times, offensively, they're a concern. But in terms of the toughness factor, the defense factor, the rebounding factor, the ability to turn you over, they are a top 5 team in the country that I would pick out of all those categories.
So my biggest concern with them is that they rely a little bit on other teams making mistakes to be able to thrive. It reminds me a lot of Press Virginia from like the 2018, 2019, 2020 kind of era.
Yes.
Where if you have good guard play that is not going to get sped up, that is not going to get flustered, that you're going to be able to run good offense and you're going to make the ball go through the basket, they're kind of limited. If you can force them to play in the half court, you're going to be able to beat them. If they can get out and run, they're going to do things like win at Baylor. They're going to do things like hand Kansas State, their only loss of the Big 12 season. They're going to do things like win in Fall Allen Fieldhouse by 23 points. Mm-hmm. So they're a little bit, to me, they can be influenced by the team that they are playing. I want to ask you this, T.O. I want to go back to Kansas really quick.
Didn't TCU really struggle with turnovers last year? They've cut that down significantly this season.
Yeah, it was like turnovers and shooting, which is why they're running so much in transition right now.
That's right. It alleviates that. That was going to be my point to get to. It alleviates that. I think you learn more about TCU than you did to Kansas, because I'm almost willing to.
I agree.
Let me ask you this about Kansas, because this is what they've done in their last 3 games, basically.
By the way, before you get that said, TCU has now beaten Kansas and Kansas State. Just saying, very impressive.
Yeah, they on their best day they could play with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so This is the stretch that Kansas is currently on. They were at Texas Tech. They were at West Virginia. They played home for Oklahoma. They played home for Iowa State. All three of those games, they were down, and they needed to make a run to come back and win, right? Same thing with Oklahoma State at home, right? 4 out of their last 5, they were down, and they had to make a run to come back and win. They lost at Kansas State by a possession. They got smacked at home by TCU. They're at Baylor next. They're at Kentucky on Saturday. And they get Kansas State at home. Then they're at Iowa State. Then they get Texas at home. Like, one, that is an absolutely brutal schedule. Mm-hmm. 2, I think that part the how tough that schedule is part of what happened on Saturday. Like, it just kind of, they were playing with fire by getting down. And I think it kind of burned them a little bit. But Tio, my question is this. Are these struggles just a result of how difficult the conference is, and we got to be excited about the fact that they're winning games? Or is there something to be worried about with the team at this point that really has 5 guys, that really only has 1 guy that is consistently making shots, and has a point guard that you can kind of decide not to defend? DeJuan Harris, last 3 games, 1 for 13 from the floor. How are you? Is any of this making you worried about what Kansas is? Are they still a national title contender, or is this just like a top 15 kind of a team?
I think they're a national title contender still, because if you're in the top 15, you're a national title contender this year.
Fair enough.
So, like, I think that's a big point in all of this. Another thing is, too, is that Kansas State, it was just so much emotional expenditure there. Like, that's a rivalry game. Kansas State's juiced to play them. They're the Super Bowl. And then they're tired and they run into TCU, and now they have to play Baylor 2 days later. You want to talk about no favors from a scheduling perspective? Exhibit A. I think the biggest improvement you're going to see is going to be after this Baylor game. If they can squeak by and steal one at Baylor, because this is what the NBA would call a scheduling loss. I'm not saying they're going to lose, but it's going to be hard because Baylor's starting to find their rhythm too. But
they won 4 in a row.
Huh?
They won 4 in a row.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. And then so you get through this one, you have Tuesday through Saturday to get ready for Kentucky.
Yeah.
Kansas needs a day off. Tuesday, like, go to the sauna or something. Like, don't do anything. That's what all the Europeans would be saying to do. Go to the sauna and then relax. I wasn't a big sauna guy, but you get my point. They need a day to relax, breathe a little bit after this Baylor game, and I think you're going to see improvement at least after Baylor. If they're able to squeak one out in Baylor, that says a lot about their team. But I think the Kansas State game was the one that really it took the wind out a little bit.
Yep. All right, Fanta. Number 1 goes down. Houston loses. And by the way, I think we're learning a lot about you, Tio, on this show. You're a Big East guy. You're a Big Ten guy now. Not a sauna guy.
Not a sauna guy.
I need to figure out how you became a Big Ten guy.
I got scheduled on every freaking Big Ten night, Fanta. Yeah. I don't know how this happened, but I got scheduled on every Big Ten night. Now I'm a huge Big Ten guy.
Yeah, every night that the Big Ten has like 5 big games on, Tio it's happened. It's
like
weird.
Me, Greg Waddell, and
Geo Baker.
Yeah, Geo Baker.
Yeah. That's okay though. I'm here for it.
Yeah,
it's almost good. It's Goodman punishing me for slandering the Big Ten.
I know, right? It's
there is no way that he's looking that hardcore at the. I mean, he does, but
he's 3 for 3 this year. He's 3 for 3 this year. I have got nothing but Big Ten nights.
All right, Fanta. Houston loses at home to Temple. Are you worried about Houston? Is this just a freaky law? I mean, look, Temple, they beat Villanova. They're 6-2 in the AAC. Like, this isn't a horrible basketball team.
Well, no, but let's not compare Villanova and Houston. I mean, they're not even on the same planet this year.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call a spade there. However, guys, so Houston does concern me, and because on the offensive end of the floor, they're not great. And to me, Jarris Walker has been amazing at times for this team, but typical of a freshman in college basketball, no matter how talented he is, because he's extremely talented, he'll go through some cold spells. And against Temple and Tulane, he struggled. I mean, he shot a combined 6 for 20 in those games. Against Cincinnati and SMU, both commanding wins for the Cougars, Walker combined for 24 points. He was great. Marcus Sasser is tremendous. Houston is not going to get blown out by anyone. I mean, on a day on Sunday where they could not have shot the ball much worse from their main players. You know, Walker goes 3 for 12. Jamal Shed and Marcus Sasser go a combined 8 for 27 in this game. And they lost the game by 1. They lost the game by a point. But, you know, I do get concerned with who they are on the offensive end of the floor. And I think that it's real this time. Like in the past couple of years, we've said, yeah, they're not a great offensive team. Well, they were still good enough. And on the defensive end, they were just so tough, which is still very much the case. But it's one of those things where, Terrence, we've talked about this. When you have offensive limitations, at a certain point in March, you're going to have to trade some buckets by virtue of the way the tournament goes. It's just how it goes. They have defied those odds in recent years with their constant success level and just getting to a Final Four and making the Elite Eight. But I do get concerned if you have that day like you had against Temple and you happen to just fall by a possession or two. I would find it hard to believe you'll never see this Houston team lose by 15 to 20. That ain't happening in the NCAA tournament. They're too good. They're too tough. They're too hard-nosed. But guys, when you have offensive limitations, it leaves you susceptible to getting beat by anybody on a given day. And I don't think people thought that about Houston before this loss on Sunday. I think people thought there's a legitimate case for them to be the best team. And maybe they're the dominant force in college basketball. No, they're not. They're not that team.
Well, they're not huge, but I also, Geo Baker made a good point yesterday on After Dark. He was like, I'm not sure how interested Houston was in this game. I felt like they could coast a little bit, but where I would argue your point is, one, Houston, you have to be woken up a little bit. It's not necessarily bad to lose a game when you're at the top of the standings everywhere.
Agreed.
Not necessarily a bad thing to lose a game. You want to, if you want to question their effort, one person I can guarantee that's going to fix that question is Coach Sampson.
Yes.
Because like that next practice is not going to be fun. I'm just throwing that out there. All of that being said too, guys, like sometimes you got to win ugly. Sampson put them in position to win. And they had a tip at the end of that game that
they had 3 shots at the rim in the last 10 seconds that would have won it.
Yep. 3 shots at the rim. The fact they were able to get 3 shots at the rim, I like those odds, especially with their athletes. So where I would kind of counter that, Fanta, is that, one, they do have guys that can make shots. I think that's a big part of it. And 2, they have a go-to guy at the end of the clock. And we know how important that is. Look at North Carolina last year. Caleb Love catches fire. It is great. They have Marcus Sasser, who can create things on his own. So that's kind of where I would counter that. Defensively, you know who they are. They're not going to get beat bad. That's going to prop them up and hold them up. What they have and what Tennessee doesn't have is a Marcus Sasser, somebody who can just create something out of nothing. That's why I think Houston is very much in that top 4, top 5 tier of college basketball, and they're going to continue to be.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I think Houston is very, very good. I don't think you are ever going to be able to call them great because they're not going to be able to just run people out of the gym. Let me ask you guys this. All right. Houston was the number 1 team in the country in the AP poll. Kansas was the number 2 team in the country in the AP poll, which kind of sets up a situation where we got to decide. Purdue, Alabama, I think those are probably the only 2 teams that will get number 1 votes. Maybe Houston will just because they're still number 1 in the metrics, but that's not normally how it works with the polls. That's part of the reason why the polls are dumb. Either way, Fanta, I know that you put out your top 15 already, your power rankings over at Fox. Who do you have number 1 and why?
For the second consecutive week, we've got Alabama at number 1 on foxsports.com because the Crimson Tide have outscored their SEC opponents by 147 combined points. They have won all 7 SEC games by double digits. They're the first team since 2012-13 Florida that's won all 7 of their SEC games to open conference play by double digits. That Florida team went to the Elite Eight. 4 of the Crimson Tide's 7 conference wins, 4 of 7 SEC wins have come by at least 20 points. If you're watching college basketball, and you're watching what Alabama's doing, you would not have any doubt in your mind that they're playing the best college basketball of any team in America right now.
Yeah.
You agree, Theo?
There's no argument. There's no argument for that. I'm picking Bama number 1. I did last night. I'm doing it again today. The big difference between this year's Alabama team and last year's, this team's defending. And they're defending at the same level that they were defending when Herb Jones was in the picture. And it doesn't have to do a lot with their wings. It has a lot more to do with Charles Bediako's development. And he's been kind of the unsung hero of that Crimson Tide team. Brandon Miller gets a lot of pub. Mark Sears gets a lot of pub. Charles Bediako's that guy behind that defense is cleaning a lot of crap up. And the fact that they're able to get out and pressure the way that they are is because they have the big fella back there. So they're very, very good. And in the style they play, other teams are susceptible to, 18-0 runs, 14-2 runs, 15-4 runs. That's the kind of team they are. And because they have so much shooting on that team, right now, today, anybody they played in the country, Alabama would be favored. That's the reason I think Alabama's number 1.
Well, they won't be favored when they play at Tennessee. I can tell you that much. They're going to be an underdog there, but that's the only thing on their schedule left where they are projected to be an underdog. I tend to agree with you guys, but can I just put a plug in for Purdue? Like calling them the number 2 team in the country, like the clear-cut number 2 team in the country, the very obvious second best team in the country, and maybe the best team in the country. Like,
yes,
Purdue fans, nobody is hating on your team, okay? Nobody is hating on your program. There are 363 teams in Division I. We are saying that you are, at absolute worst, the second best team in college basketball, maybe the best team in college basketball, definitely the best team in the Big Ten, and maybe the team that's going to go out and win a national title. We are saying Shaq Edey is the best player in college basketball, the most unstoppable force in college basketball. My mentions, I wasn't even on After Dark last night. My mentions blew up for some reason because somebody was really upset about the fact that you said that, like Shaq Edey, like he commits some fouls. He gets fouled.
I said the opposite.
Yeah, like I have no idea what the argument was about, but it just blew up at about 12:15. Whatever you guys did, my mentions started melting down around then.
Well, Greg started arguing with him. That was a problem.
Hey, let me tell you something. When Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, particularly Lawyer, are leading that team as well and making plays and gutsy, and I was so impressed with Fletcher Lawyer at Michigan State. His poise, his moxie, his confidence level. When those guards are playing in sync, Purdue can absolutely be the best team in college basketball. And they are going to be as tough of an out as anybody. This is not soft Purdue. This is not, I mean, on a day where Tyson Walker, literally, how demoralizing is it? And I felt it was demoralizing for Michigan State. Tyson Walker couldn't have played better if he tried. He had the best day that Tom Izzo could have hoped for. And Michigan State lost on their home court. And you know what that says to me? Yeah, Purdue's got it. They're nasty, man. They are tough as hell. There was a moment in that game.
They'll guard too. Like the biggest concern that people always bring up is like, I don't know how Zach Edey is going to be able to defend. I don't know how they're going to be able to do that. Like they're top 20 in the country in KenPom and defensive efficiency. And like a lot of that is because in the Big Ten, everybody has a big body, right? Like, so you can kind of hide Shaq Edey a little bit. Like, you don't necessarily have to worry about it. It's not going to be something where he's going to be chasing people out around on the perimeter. But also, like, I think he's better playing drop coverage than he gets credit for.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and their defensive leap is not solid or big. It's actually massive. I mean, they were around 80th in KenPom defensive efficiency last year with a team that everyone thought could make the Final Four. So they've jumped around 60 spots. And to me, there's just different playmakers who make things happen. Caleb First doesn't get enough credit for what he does for this team.
Mason Gillis.
Gillis comes up big for this team. They've got a supporting cast. They do defend. In all honesty, Michigan State's one of the teams that actually matches up quite well with them. Izzo should ride the small ball, because it's something different in a Big Ten that's loaded up with bigs. However, Purdue is that good. They really are. And just to think, guys, that Zach Edey has 4 performances this year of at least 26 points and 14 rebounds. And 11 other players in college basketball can even say that, and they've only done it one time. And Edey's got 3 more than any other player in the sport. He is crazy good. So you have a generational talent surrounded by Matt Painter guards. You're not going to lose.
Yep. Fanta, you got to get out of here at 11, so I'm going to give you one last thing. The most interesting team when it comes to where they're ranked on Monday morning, to be clear, we're recording this before the AP poll is out, so I'm going to be fascinated to see where they are, is Kansas State. They were 13th last week. They are outside the top 25, both on Torvik and KenPom. Where do you rank this team? Because the metrics say that they aren't quite as good as people think that they are. But if you look at what they've done and the wins that they have and the way that they're playing, like, I don't know how you rank them outside, like maybe the top 8 at the absolute worst.
Yeah, I think they deserve to be ranked number 3.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I saw you put your poll out, Fanta. Number 3. That's good.
Hey,
I'm not mad at that.
Hey, there's 2 sides to doing the poll this week for anybody that's doing one, and there's a lot of people doing one. Number 1, you have to accept that some teams are going to lose. Like this year in college basketball, it's kind of okay to lose. It is what it is. Like for UCLA losing to Arizona, I can't penalize UCLA that much. They had won 14 in a row. They lost in Tucson. Not many people are winning in Tucson.
Right.
Kansas State, all they've done is win. They're 17-2, as you said. Keontae Johnson is tough as nails. And when you have a lead guard in Marquise Noel, you're going to be able to compete in any game. So for me, I look at Kansas State and their makeup. I don't know if metrically, I understand the analytics side of it, Rob. I totally get what you're saying, that maybe they're not as good as we think. But rankings have to combine both analytics and what you're seeing from a team. Not what you think about a team. Not that, they lost 2 in a row, but I still really like them. Well, they lost. So what was the reason for that? You have to figure out a way to be down the middle in this while also watching the teams play. And if you're watching Kansas State play, you know this much. They've got a will to win, baby. They really do. And Jerome Tang would be my national coach of the year today.
Yeah.
So for me, they're 3rd in the country at this moment because they have an elite point guard and they've got a really good defense and enough there in their complementary cast to say at 17-2 in the best conference in college basketball, they should be in the top 5.
Yep.
I made this point last.
Hold on, T.O.
He's got to go out. Fanta's got to go.
You jump off. You head out. T.O. and I are going to hang out for the people that are listening to this podcast still. T.O., I know you got a point you want to make about Kansas State.
I already forgot.
Go ahead. And I also want to talk to you about UCLA and Arizona. So go ahead. Say what you got to say about Kansas State. He's no joke, man. Like I would run through a wall for that dude, and I have no allegiances to Kansas State. I might have to be a Kansas State fan at this point.
Let me promise you something, Rob. Let me promise you something. Wherever we go for the first week of the NCAA tournament, I'm going to be doing that funky Kansas State dance where they're going back and forth. You're going to get video of me doing the Kansas State. I don't know what it's called, but I'm doing it. I'm back and forth, baby. I'm here. I'm here with Jerome Tang. It fires me up. When's the last time you've seen a team who's, now I'm going to say arguably here because I think Keontae Johnson's very good, but arguably their best NBA prospect is their 4th or 5th option on the floor at one time?
It's not that often.
When's the last time? I came up with this last night kind of on the fly. Marvin Williams at Carolina, when they won the national championship with Sean May, is the last time I can think of that being the case. And Marvin Williams ends up going number 3 and playing 15 years in the NBA. He's not Marvin Williams, but I think it speaks to the depth and how this team plays and the talent level that's on Kansas State. And such a quick turnaround in a year where Tang only had 2 scholarship players whenever he took the job. That's massive. The job he's done is freaking unbelievable.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk UCLA, Arizona, and then we can get out of here because I think that
I'm not mad at it.
I'm starting to get a little bit like I have some questions about UCLA. We'll talk about that in a second. I think what Arizona did was so damn impressive, though. This was a team we questioned how good they were defensively. We questioned a little bit their toughness level. What are you going to do against a team that wants to play 4 around the perimeter? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? Blah, 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 this, that, and the third. And they went out and they beat UCLA at UCLA's game. They won a grinded out defensive slugfest, 58-52 against a team that wants to play grinded out defensive slugfest. And to me, I don't care where that game was. The way that they won that game, I mean, they were up 13 late. UCLA made a run to kind of make it a little bit interesting.
A scary run.
Yeah, they more or less beat the hell out of UCLA, and that was a really, really impressive win.
Yeah, it certainly was. And but they have some things to figure out at the end. As soon as UCLA extended that pressure, Arizona had problems.
Yep.
But no, I think there's a lot to be said for, first of all, Arizona, as fast as they do play, they are built for the half court. I mean, from a size perspective and all that stuff, how big it, Kirk Kreese is not small, 6'3", $190. Tubella, 6'11", 250. Ballo, 7 foot, 260. Cedric Henderson ain't small at 6'6", 205 or whatever he is. Like, it's a team that the fact that they were able to win in a different way than they're normally accustomed to says a lot about their potential in March, because everything in the NCAA tournament is so much about matchups, and the fact that they can win in different ways certainly helps you. I will say, was it Bona? Adam Bona?
Adam Bona, yeah.
Lee.
I think it's a Dem. I think it's a Dem Bona, not Adam.
A Dem Bona or Dem Bona. They said Bona on television yesterday, but a Dem Bona, dear Lord, we need to look that up. But dude, his activity level was awesome. I mean, like, he's, in my mind, a more active, tougher.
They called him Amari Stoudemire. The UCLA staff called him Amari
Stoudemire. That is very sweet of them. But I would go a tougher, more athletic Clint Capella. He just has more to him. Like, he's all over the floor, man. What is he, 6'10", 7 foot?
Yeah.
He's all over the floor, incredibly
blocks everything,
long.
Crazy athlete. And like,
man.
I'm gonna say something, and I hope people take it the right way, but he's kind of an asshole too. Like, he's got a little bit of prick in him, like in a good way, right? Where he kind of, he'll get in your face a little bit after he blocks a shot. And if you score on him, he gets a little bit pissed off. He's like, no, that's not happening. Wait until you come down here again, right? Like, he's got what's the saying? He's got that dog in him.
He's got some dog in him. He's got to check his x-rays. Check his x-rays. He got dog in him. He plays with an edge. But that UCLA team too, man. Like, I know they got down because I think the size discrepancy got them in Tucson. And you run into those big bodies for 40 minutes, like, it's going to take a toll. That all was also
really smart the way that Tommy Lloyd played. Like, he just didn't guard Adem Bona. Like, they just kind of let him roam on the perimeter and left an extra body in the paint. So anytime you tried to drive, like, oh, by the way, here's Omar Ballo, who is 7 foot and 260 pounds. He's just going to be in your way anytime you try to go to the basket.
Yeah. So. And keep in mind that, like, Amari Bailey hasn't been what a lot of people thought he was going to be, but he's still missing, is still valuable. I mean, he's still a valuable piece there. That's far and away the two best teams in the Pac-12. Far and away.
Here's my concern. Okay. On paper, I think UCLA looks like a top 5 team in America. I love the lineup. I love, in theory, Tiger Campbell and Jaime Jaquez, and Jalen Clark's been unbelievable. I love Adem Bona. With Amari Bailey coming back, David Singleton does a really good job in the role that he's asked to play. They're tough. They defend. They look like a Mick Cronin team. Here are their best wins on the season. They beat Kentucky on a neutral when Kentucky was kind of not playing well at all. They won at Maryland by 27, but, like, I don't even know what to think of beating Maryland. And then after that, it's like USC, Utah, Oregon, Arizona. Like, there's not a lot of great wins on their resume. The 3 best teams that they played, they got smacked around a little bit by Illinois. They lost to Baylor, and they got smacked around a little bit by Arizona. So,
yeah, but they're beating the brakes off of those other teams in the Pac-12, though.
They are. But, like, at some point, look, bottom line is this. If they don't beat Arizona in the last game of the regular season at home, or they don't beat them in the Pac-12 tournament, they're going to enter the NCAA tournament without a win over a top 25 team.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's a lot to be said there. You're the stat man. I would never pick that out. I just look at what I'm watching. Like, I don't know how to say that any differently. But
so they
had the pieces to win, and they're guarding, man. They're guarding.
Yep.
They're guarding.
Does that worry you at all?
That they're not, kind of, sort of, maybe. But I mean, the thing about the NCAA tournament is you're not playing those big physical bodies every day anyway. And if there's one conference, as far as the Power Six concerned, where you're playing a bunch of different teams with a bunch of different personnel and bodies and body types and all that, it's the Pac-12. Now, is it great? No, but, like, there's a lot of variability from team to team as far as size is concerned and style of play is concerned. So that will have them adjusted a little bit, but that does concern me because you got to go through some wars, and the fact that you're playing your best teams that you've played all year, you've lost to anybody inside the top 30, they haven't beaten.
No. That's
interesting. I had not picked that up until you said so, Rob.
Yeah. So that is my one concern with UCLA. Still love them. All right. This has been the DTF Podcast. If you're still listening, rate, review, subscribe, do all of those things that we love as podcasters. Subscribe to the Field of 68 Daily, the best way to catch up on college basketball every morning. You get an email in your inbox 8:30 a.m. Monday through Friday. And while you're at it, go check out field68.shop. We got a lot of cool merch in the store. So for Terrence Oglesby, for the since departed John Fanta, my name is Rob Doster. See you guys again next time.